The rain came down like a curtain of needles, soaking the gravel road that stretched toward nowhere. Her Kara sleek obsidian machine, too pretty for this town, hissed and groaned before giving out entirely. Steam curled from under the hood as she coasted to a stop in front of the only building with lights still on, an old garage, peeling paint, neon open sign, flickering like it had a stutter. Inside, a man wiped grease from his hands, the fluorescent light casting long shadows on his worn-out coveralls, mid-30s, shoulders broad, face calm but tired in the way only single parents are. A small voice hummed behind him, soft and off-key. His daughter, maybe 6 or 7, sitting on a milk crate, legs swinging, coloring in a spiral notebook. The woman inside the car hesitated. Her leather gloves were still on. The rain hadn't slowed. Through the windshield, she saw the little girls smile and wave. She stepped out, heels clicking in defiance against the puddles. Her expensive coat caught the wind. She looked out of place here, like a statue dropped in a painting. The man didn't flinch when he saw her. "Trouble?" he asked, wiping his hands once more, already stepping forward. She nodded, arms crossed, unsure of his kindness. He lifted the hood, said nothing, just listened to the car as if it was speaking in pain. Within minutes, he had his tools out, not rushed, not showy, just focused, steady. She stood by, silent. "I can pay," she offered. He didn't even look up. Not worried about that. She tilted her head. Then why help? He glanced back at his daughter, who is still humming, because she's watching. She blinked just once. Something shifted. Then the girl stood and said, "Hi, I like your boots." Hooking her heart in an instant, she stood with her arms folded, watching as he slid under the car with nothing but a floor jack, a wrench, and trust. Rain tapped the tin roof in rhythm, like a song only small towns know. The garage smelled of oil, metal, and something warm, maybe hope. He emerged minutes later. Soaked at the shoulders, smudges across his jawline like war paint. "Try it now," he said. She stepped into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine purred like it hadn't just died on the side. Of a road, she stepped back out. Stunned, "You didn't replace anything." "Didn't need to." "Loose connector." "It happens when it rains hard." He shrugged. "You're lucky." She reached into her purse and pulled out a crisp $100 bill. "Take it," she said. He dried his hands on a rag, but didn't reach for it. "Get home safe." "That's payment enough." She raised an eyebrow. "You don't want money," he half smiled. "Lady, around here, we don't charge people just for showing up." She looked at him longer this time, unsure if he was naive or noble. "At least give me your name." He hesitated, then nodded once. "Nathan." "I'm Leela," she offered. Their hands didn't shake, but their eyes met with something soft in the silence. Inside the garage, the little girl danced with her notebook pressed to her chest. Her ponytail bounced. Her voice hummed again an old love song from the radio, slightly off-key, but full of soul. Lila watched her for a second, then stepped into her car as the headlights lit the wet gravel. She rolled down the window. "That kind of kindness. It's rare," she said. Nathan simply nodded. Then she drove off into the dark, never seeing the gold earring fall from her coat and land quietly at the edge of the garage. The rain hadn't stopped. It softened to a drizzle, whispering against the garage's tin roof like an old lullaby. Inside, Nathan turned off the main light and wiped the last bit of grease from his hands. "Mac and cheese?" he asked. His daughter nodded eagerly. "With a ketchup smiley face?" He grinned, tired but genuine. "Always." They moved into the small apartment tucked behind the garage. The kitchen was no bigger than a closet. A single pan bubbled on the stove, its handle chipped. A tiny table stood beneath a flickering bulb, surrounded by mismatched chairs. Everything in the space had clearly been repaired more than once, just like Nathan himself. Steam curled from the plates. Ellie sculpted a face out of ketchup with her fork, giggling. Nathan watched her with quiet awe. "You keep singing like that, and someone's gonna discover you one day." She tilted her head. "Like on YouTube." He chuckled. "Maybe bigger than that." She glanced up, hopeful. "Can I be a singer, Dad?" He paused, then nodded slowly. "You can be anything, Ellie." The moment held. "Even if I can't afford lessons," he added in his thoughts. Eyes lowering to the worn-out linoleum, she hummed again, mouth full of noodles. Her little voice filled the room, raw and full of unshaped magic. As he cleared the plates, she wandered toward the doorway, dragging her blanket behind her. But just as she reached the edge of the garage, something caught her eye. Yeah, she bent down and picked something up. It shimmered under the single garage light. "A princess dropped this," she whispered. Holding out a gold earring, Nathan took it. Stunned, it wasn't from here. He looked toward the road. Toward the storm. The night hadn't taken everything away. It had left something behind. The morning after was quiet, too quiet. Nathan stood outside, sipping coffee from a chipped mug, eyes half closed against the bright sun. The storm had passed, but the gravel was still wet. Steam rising from the earth like ghosts shrugging off the night. Ellie was drawing chalk hearts near the entrance, singing quietly to herself. Then the rumble of tires. Nathan turned, expecting another customer instead. A luxury SUV pulled up, sleek, black, spotless. The same woman from the night before? Leela stepped out, but this time she wasn't alone. A man climbed out behind her, holding a professional video camera on his shoulder. Another followed with a microphone and a clipboard. Nathan tensed. Ellie stopped drawing. "Morning," Leela called, smiling but nervous. "You lost again." She approached slowly. "I didn't come here to break anything. I came to show the world what kind of man you are." He glanced at the camera. "I'm not interested in that kind of attention. We're doing a story," she explained. "About decency. About people who still do the right thing, even when no one's watching." "I was watching," Ellie added quietly from the chalk line. Nathan's jaw clenched. "I didn't ask for this." "I know," Leela said, voice softening. "But maybe the world needs to see you." He didn't answer. Just walked back toward the garage. The cameraman panned across the space tools stacked neatly, parts labeled, Ellie's drawings taped to a cracked wall. Nathan turned around slowly. "Just don't film my daughter." Lila nodded. "Of course." Ellie stood beside her father, curious but cautious. Lila crouched to her level and smiled. "We've been looking for people like your dad." Ellie blinked. "There's no one like him." Nathan exhaled through his nose. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. The garage, once a quiet cave of turning wrenches and humming lullabies, now buzzed with wires, boom mics, and quiet instructions whispered behind cameras. Nathan stood with his arms crossed, flanked by stacks of tires and the smell of old gasoline. "I thought this was just a visit," he muttered. Leela smiled gently, holding a mic, but also something more. The red light on the camera blinked to life. 3, 2. "Live," the cameraman signaled. Nathan froze. "Today," Lila began, voice smooth, practiced. "We bring you a story not about politics or profit, but about people." She turned toward Nathan. "Yesterday, I was stranded in the rain. Most people would have driven past, but not this man." Nathan glanced off camera, visibly uncomfortable. "He repaired my car, refused payment, and sent me home safe. No name, no business card, just kindness." Ellie peeked out from behind a pillar, wide-eyed. "This is Nathan, single father, small-town mechanic, and the kind of man the world should meet." Nathan shifted. "I'm not special." Leela faced him, live and raw. "You are to me." The camera captured everything: his stiff shoulders, the honest discomfort in his eyes, the emotion flickering just beneath his quiet. "I'm just doing what I hope someone would do for my daughter someday," he said finally, voice low. A silence fell, a meaningful one. Then Leela turned to the camera. "He deserves more than a thank you." With that, she stepped out of frame. The cameraman slowly panned to Ellie, her small face lit with pride and confusion. The feed cut. Nathan exhaled like he'd been underwater. Outside, the internet was already awake, watching, sharing, reacting. Inside, Nathan whispered, almost to himself, "What just happened?" And from a phone nearby, the notifications started to explode by noon. The garage door hadn't stopped rattling, not from cars, from people, strangers, pulled up one after another, some with phones filming, some holding flowers, others just wanting to see the guy from the video. Nathan stood in the same oil-stained overalls, arms folded, jaw tight. He hadn't changed, but everything around him had. A woman handed him cookies. "My son watches you on TikTok now. Says you're a real hero." A teenager begged for a selfie. "You're trending, dude. My school's talking about you in ethics class." Nathan didn't know what to say. Inside, Ellie clutched her blanket, sitting behind the counter. Watching it all unfold like a movie she hadn't auditioned for, the chalk hearts she drew that morning had been trampled. He closed the door briefly and leaned against it. Silence. Just for a moment, he looked around at his walls. The photo of him and Ellie in front of a birthday cake, her drawings of stars and stick figures, the screwdriver he'd had since trade school. Everything familiar now looked like a museum exhibit. His phone buzzed again. He finally picked it up. Messages, emails, tags. Dozens of them. Journalists, TV producers, a national talk show. One read, "We'd love to fly you out to New York. Tell your story to the world." Nathan closed his eyes. "I didn't ask for any of this," he whispered. Behind him, Ellie crept over and slid her hand into his dot. He looked down at her. "You okay, kiddo?" She nodded. "You didn't break anything," he smiled faintly. "Not yet." But outside, the next SUV was already pulling up, and this one had tinted windows. It wasn't just viral anymore. It was personal. The doorbell didn't ring. It was a knock firm, deliberate, and nothing like the dozen fans or reporters from earlier. Nathan opened the garage's office door, wiping his hands on a rag. A man in a tailored gray suit stood there, briefcase in hand, shoes too clean for this street. "Mr. Nathan Hale." "Depends who's asking." "I'm Benjamin Lowell," the man said, offering a business card with raised gold letters. "Legal counsel for Miss Leela Hart." Nathan didn't move. "She sent a lawyer." "Not for anything bad," Benjamin said quickly. "She asked me to deliver this." He pulled out a single white envelope, sealed with embossed initials. Nathan didn't take it right away. "She could have called. She figured you'd hang up." Nathan gave a dry chuckle and finally took the envelope. It was heavier than expected. Benjamin straightened his tie. "She'd appreciate if you read it before deciding anything." With that, the lawyer turned and walked off. Clicking his way across gravel like it was marble. Inside, Nathan sat at the desk, Ellie watching him closely. "Who was that, Daddy? A man in a suit? Is he scary?" Nathan opened the letter. His brows furrowed as he read, "It wasn't just a thank you. It wasn't just a check. It was an offer, employment, a teaching position at a technical school she funded, paid mentorship programs, a music scholarship inquiry for Ellie, and one line at the bottom, 'There's more to this than charity. I saw something in you, and I'm not done.'" Ellie looked over his shoulder. "What's mentorship mean?" Nathan folded the letter carefully. "It means she wants to help." Ellie grinned. "Like you helped her." He didn't answer, but his heart beat a little faster when he read the last word at the bottom. Dinner. Invitation accepted. Or ignored. That choice was still his. For now, Nathan stood outside his garage, staring at the letter for the 5th time that day. The paper had softened from handling, edges bent where his thumb kept pausing. Ellie swung her legs off the workbench, humming softly as she colored in a heart with wings. "You gonna go?" she asked, without looking up. "It's not that simple," he said. She said food. He almost smiled. "It's not about the food." Still, by nightfall, he was behind the wheel of his dusty pickup. Ellie beside him in her best denim jacket and a butterfly clip in her hair. The road to the estate twisted past tall fences and trees that lined driveways like soldiers. When the mansion appeared, Ellie whispered, "That's a house." Nathan parked in disbelief. Lights poured out from arched windows. The door opened before they could knock. Lila stood in the entryway, dressed simply, no makeup, barefoot. "You came," she said, almost surprised. "Still not sure why," Nathan replied. "You didn't come for me?" "You came for her," she said, eyes flicking to Ellie. They entered a dining room that looked like a museum except the table only had 3 settings. No press, no cameras, just food. Real, warm, homemade food. Ellie ran toward the grand piano in the corner, eyes wide. "I didn't come here to thank you," Leela said, pouring water, her voice quieter now. "Then why?" "I came to understand you." Nathan looked up at her, the lighting catching the edges of her exhaustion. She wasn't some millionaire on a stage tonight. She was a woman who'd been rescued and hadn't stopped thinking about the man who did it. He didn't speak, but he didn't leave. Either. Outside, the rain had finally dried. Inside, something else had just started. Before Nathan, before the rain, before the camera lights, there was a silence in Leela's life, so loud it shook. The glass of her high-rise windows, she sat alone in a penthouse living room 2 nights before the breakdown. A designer dress hung off one shoulder, mascara blurred beneath one eye. An engagement ring, impossibly large, rested on the marble counter beside an untouched champagne flute. The man she was meant to marry had walked out the night before. Not quietly. Not with grace. He had left behind slammed doors, unspoken betrayal, and a list of what she'd failed to be. Too unpredictable, too emotional, too much heart for someone in your position. She had driven away at midnight, hair pinned up, phone buzzing endlessly in the passenger seat. And when the road turned dark, when the city lights gave way to trees and gravel, she didn't stop, mixing with the rain until the world became a smear of headlights and guilt. Then the car coughed, stuttered, stopped, and there, glowing in the distance like a lighthouse for the lost, was a single flickering sign. Open, his garage. She hadn't meant to be seen that night. She wasn't supposed to feel small in front of a stranger, but she did, because Nathan didn't look at her the way others did. He didn't see a runaway bride or a tabloid headline. He saw someone broken, and didn't flinch. She remembered standing in the rain, her heels sinking in the mud, watching him work without question or pity. It was the first time in years someone helped her without wanting something in return. That was why she came. Not for exposure, not for ego, but because when everything fell apart, he was the only person who didn't ask her to explain. The next morning, Leela wandered through her own library with a mug of tea in hand, barefoot on polished floors. A question had been haunting her since dinner. Who was he, really? She sat at her laptop, opened a search tab, and typed Nathan Hale, mechanic, Monroe County. What she found made her still. There were old articles, Zelloed scans from university archives. Local prodigy receives MIT scholarship. Another valedictorian with a wrench. Nathan Hale balances engineering and caregiving. One image stopped her. A much younger Nathan in a lab coat, standing beside a custom engine prototype, arm around an older woman, his mother. According to the caption, Lila leaned back, stunned. "What are you doing under hoods, Nathan?" she whispered. Later that day, she returned to the garage. Ellie was on the floor with chalk again. Nathan was underneath a truck, boots sticking out. "You lied," Leela said as soon as he rolled out. He squinted up at her. "Didn't lie. Just didn't tell you? You went to MIT. He stood, wiping grease on his jeans. "Yeah, for a while." She waited. Silence stretched. "My mom got sick. Real sick. Dad bailed. I left school to take care of her. Bills stacked. Garage became a job. Then, a life." Her voice softened. "But you were going to change the world." He shrugged. "World didn't ask me to. My daughter did." Lila stared at him, eyes glassy. "Why hide it?" "Because people don't tip mechanics for having degrees. They just want the car to run." There was no pride in his tone-only piece. "Life doesn't always follow blueprints," he added. Turning back to the engine, Lila watched him, quiet. The man who once engineered machines had become a man who fixed people, one stranger at a time. The grand piano in Leela's sitting room had sat untouched for years, polished weakly but silent. Until today, Ellie stood beside it, eyes wide, hands trembling slightly. "Can I try?" Lila smiled. "It's yours for as long as you want." Nathan, arms crossed in the doorway, shook his head. She's never played anything this big. But Ellie was already climbing onto the bench, legs dangling, her fingers finding keys like they were old friends. She pressed one note, then another, then she began to hum soft, unsure. But beautiful in its honesty, Nathan went still. It wasn't a song he recognized, yet it felt familiar. Like the first sunrise after a long winter, Leela's hand covered her mouth. The rawness in Ellie's voice, strained pure, heartbreakingly hopeful, filled the cavernous room with something no studio could replicate. No auto-tune, no production. Just a little girl, dreaming out loud. When she finished, silence clung to the air like dust in a sunbeam. Nathan whispered, "I didn't know she could do that." "She's not just talented," Lila said, her voice shaking. "She's magic." Ellie turned around, beaming. "Did I do okay?" Nathan knelt beside her. "You did better than okay." Leela knelt beside them both. "Would you like to learn more? Proper lessons. Maybe even a mentor." Ellie's eyes lit up. Really? Nathan hesitated. We can't afford. You don't have to, Leela interrupted gently. He looked at her sharply. I don't take pity. She held his gaze. This isn't pity, it's respect. He turned back to Ellie. She had already gone back to the keys, giggling as she tapped out a tune that sounded suspiciously like her favorite cartoon theme. And for a moment, the house wasn't a mansion anymore. It was just a room full of music and possibility. The next morning, Nathan stood at the edge of Lila's estate, watching groundskeepers trim hedges with machines that probably cost more than his truck. Lila approached, holding a folder. I want to offer you something, she said gently. He didn't move. You already have. This is different, she continued, handing him the folder. Inside, a proposal, a brand new auto center, his name on the building, full ownership, staff, equipment, even a music studio next door for Ellie. Nathan flipped through the pages, brows furrowed. This is too much. It's what you deserve, she said. He closed the folder. I fix things, he said, jaw tightening. Not because I want fame, not for cameras. I do it because I know what it's like to be broken. This isn't about attention, she said. It's about legacy. No, he snapped, stepping back. It's about guilt. You come from money. You're used to buying your way out of gratitude. Leela's face fell. That's not fair, isn't it? He asked. What happens when this project isn't shiny anymore? When helping me no longer gets you views or headlines? She blinked, stung. You think that little of me? I don't know what to think, he said quietly. You live in a world where people hand each other keys to empires. I live in a world where we rebuild alternators from junkyard scraps. A long pause hung between them. I wasn't trying to rescue you, Nathan, she said. I was trying to stand beside you. He didn't respond. Just looked toward the garage. She'd drawn in her plans. It was beautiful and terrifying because it meant letting someone in. He handed the folder back. I have a daughter to raise, not a dream to chase. Then he walked away, boots leaving prints on her polished stone path. The gravel crunched under Nathan's boots as he left the estate behind. Folder untouched, promises unopened. The sun was high, but the weight in his chest made everything feel dimmer. Ellie sat quietly beside him in the truck. She didn't ask questions. Back at the garage, the world hadn't changed. Same cracked window, same leaky faucet, same hum of the fridge that rattled just before it kicked in. It was familiar, predictable, and somehow lonelier now. He reheated canned soup for dinner. Ellie didn't complain, but she didn't sing either. You mad at me? He asked. She shrugged. She was nice. I know. She liked my singing. I liked it too. Then why do you look sad? Nathan stared into his bowl, because sometimes, when something feels too big, you start thinking it'll disappear the second you touch it. Ellie didn't understand all of it, but she knew he was hurting that night. As she fell asleep on the couch with a blanket around her, Nathan stepped into the garage and picked up the gold earring he'd left on the shelf. He turned it over in his fingers like it held answers. Then, headlights. He stepped outside. Lila's car sat at the curb, engine off. She stepped out alone. No cameras, no papers. Her eyes were glassy, but her voice was steady. I didn't come to change you. I came because you already changed me. He didn't say anything. She walked closer. I needed you that night. Not just for my car. I was falling apart, and you didn't ask me to explain. Nathan looked away. I fix cars, not fairy tales. She whispered, almost breaking. But what if I needed you more than you'll ever know? The wind stirred. He didn't answer. He just turned and walked inside. Again, the flyer arrived folded in half, slipped under the garage door like a secret. Ellie found it first. Dad, it's you. Nathan wiped his hands, confused. She held it up, bold letters read, Monroe County Vintage Auto Show, featuring a special showcase by Nathan Hale. He muttered, flipping it over. His own garage name was printed across the bottom, though he'd never submitted anything. He scanned the fine print exhibitor, 1958, Ford Fairlane restored to original condition. His eyes widened. That car had sat at the back of his lot for years. Rusted, forgotten. It wasn't show-ready, not even close. But then he remembered the day Leela had asked about the old classic. What would it take to bring it back? She had said casually, like she was just curious. Now he knew. The show was that weekend. He almost didn't go, but Ellie begged, "Please, Daddy, just go look." So they went, and there it was. His fair LA&E, polished, gleaming, who'd open like a proud chest. The engine spotless, painted in the exact shade of navy he'd always dreamed of. A placard sat in front, restored by Nathan Hale, mechanic and mentor. A small crowd gathered around it. Then a voice behind him. "You always told me to dream bigger," Lila said, stepping beside him, nervous but smiling. "So I did." He turned to her, speechless. "This was your vision," she continued. "I just gave it a second chance." On the windshield sat a small silver trophy and beneath it, a single key on a velvet ribbon. "For you," she said. Nathan looked down at the key, then up at her. "Why?" he asked, voice low. "Because something tells me," she whispered, "this story's not done," and behind them, Ellie clapped, beaming like the sun had finally come home. The crowd around the car show had begun to fade, but Nathan stood still, hand hovering over the key like it might vanish if he touched it too quickly. Lila faced him, now no walls. No crew, no rich girl poise, just a woman with something she couldn't hide anymore. "I didn't fix that car for a prize," she said softly. Nathan raised an eyebrow. "No, I did it to remind you what beauty you leave behind, even when you walk away," he blinked. Then she reached into her purse, pulled out a small black box. He froze. "Don't freak out," she said, smiling nervously. "It's not what you think." Inside was a silver wrench, tiny, engraved, for the man who fixed more than just engines. He chuckled quietly. "Cute." She held his gaze. "But this is..." Lila turned to the small platform beside the car, stepped up, and dropped to one knee. Gasps from the remaining crowd. Ellie's mouth fell open. Lila pulled a simple ring from her coat pocket. "No cameras, no strings, no PR, just me. Asking you to be part of a life I never thought I deserved until you showed me otherwise." Nathan's breath caught. "I know you don't believe in fairy tales," she said, voice shaking, "but sometimes the best ones start with flat tires and a little grease." He looked down, chest rising and falling. "You're serious?" "I'm terrified," she laughed. "But yes, completely." He glanced at Ellie. She nodded, eyes wide, whispering, "Say yes." Nathan stepped up onto the platform, looked out at the silent witnesses, then down at her. "I fix things," he said. "Then fix us," she replied. And in front of a town that once overlooked him, he pulled her gently to her feet and kissed her like he was home, for the first time. Forever, 6 months later. The sound of tools echoed again, but this time, it was laughter too. The new garage sat just 2 blocks from where Nathan had started. Brick walls, glass panels, neon signage glowing soft in the dusk. But what made it shine wasn't the paint or the polish. It was the people. Nathan stood under the new awning, adjusting a banner that read, "Opening Day, free repairs for single parents." Ellie raced around with chalk in hand, sketching music notes on the sidewalk. Her humming had become stronger, steadier. She'd started voice lessons 2 weeks ago. Inside, a small studio had been built beside the main bay. Piano, mic stand, guitar wall, a gift from Lila, not flashy, just real. Nathan walked in, wiping his hands, and stopped in front of the freshly mounted sign behind the counter. Dad's Garage and Dreams now open. He smiled. Lila appeared behind him, arms wrapped around his waist. "Told you we'd build it. You said that after I turned you down twice." She kissed his shoulder. "And I meant it every time." A reporter stood outside, camera ready. "Do we have to do the press thing?" Nathan asked. "Just one photo?" Lila grinned. "You're a local legend now," he grumbled. "Legends don't unclog fuel lines," she laughed as the first customer approached, a young mother with a rattling minivan. Nathan walked out to greet her with Ellie at his side. "Welcome," he said. "You're right on time, back inside." Lila added a final touch to the wall-framed photo of the night it all began. A drenched woman, a quiet man, a child smiling from a garage doorway. Sometimes stories don't start in castles. They start with kindness and end with keys, chalk hearts, and a door that never closes again.